Hello everyone, I'm Skan and you're watching Pictorial Thought. Now, this is the second video on this channel, and first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who saw the first one. You guys liked it, you guys subscribed to my channel, and you also gave me some valuable feedback. And it is really important for me that you guys keep doing that so that I am motivated to do more of this. I would also like to apologize for being so late in posting the second video. The original thought was to post 2 videos a month. Now, it couldn't be made possible because I have only started off in the professional photography business, and you keep getting projects and they need 100% of your time and attention. So I got a little busy there. Recently, I finished the first major project in my career, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited about uh, this profession and also this channel. Now, this video is for beginners, people who are trying to get into photography or considering taking photographs more seriously. It's not for people who have been in the field for a long time and people who are pros or professionals, because the concerns are very different. So for this video, I would like to answer, or at least try to answer, a part of the question that beginners face, which is, what camera do you buy? What camera would suit your needs the best, and what camera would make you learn photography further? Now, that is the most important part of this question. How do you learn photography, or how do you pick a camera that helps you learn? Now, the natural instinct these days is to first go to YouTube, find videos about cameras, find videos that review cameras, and pick your camera from there. Now, problem with that is that on YouTube, almost every channel that reviews a camera would review a camera with professionals in mind, or with at least the best efficiency in mind, which is all good because why not? Now, the thing is that almost all those channels consider speed to be an essential quality of a camera. And as you might have noticed by the title of this video, I am taking somewhat of a contrary position here. But again, let me remind you, this is not for the pros and professionals. This is only for the beginners. Why I say this is because when you're a professional and you're on a shoot, you cannot waste time. You don't get a lot of second chances. So the thing there is to get everything right in the first go, if you possibly can, because the room for error reduces when there's money involved. And for professionals, of course, a faster camera is always better. But for me, I think that's it. That's all the importance that speed should get. It is a professional qualification for a camera. For a beginner, however, who is looking into learning photography, the contrary is true. A faster camera can actually hinder your growth as a photographer, because a faster camera allows you to just point and shoot at things and you'd get things faster. It would allow you to take photographs in burst mode, so you won't be forced to think before taking a photograph. Now, to put things into perspective, when we pick up photography, we generally come from our aspiration to be somewhat, or at least acquire techniques and skills of certain masters that we might have seen. Now, if you go back in history and look at the analog age, people were taking photographs with analog cameras up until very recently. It's only been, about 10 to 15 years at max when digital cameras have become the professional standard. Before that, you had analog cameras, which were by the nature of being analog comparatively slow. It's only with the digital cameras that you have autofocus and writing speeds and all of those things. With analog cameras, what you had was manual focus. So every time you needed to focus, you had to turn the focus ring, and then you had to wait for the film to be developed, and then you had a long process before you actually had the final result in your hand. You could not just take a photo or a series of photographs and review it immediately. So there, a photographer was forced to know his or her equipment better, so that even without being able to see the photograph immediately, they knew that they were doing the right thing. And in fact, even certain professional photographers, some pro photographers, people you might actually like, who are now taking photographs with digital cameras, have come from analog cameras. I am not a very old person, but even I started off with analog cameras. So the reason why I am pointing this out is that today, with all these digital cameras and really good digital cameras, what you have is a flood of photographs. People just like to point, shoot, and take hundreds of photographs, and you have Instagram and you have Facebook, social media in general, where you'd be just flooded by photographs which are considered pleasant looking. But that's not what you want to be. You don't want to be someone who just takes good looking pictures. You want to be a photographer. And to be a photographer means to be able to produce meaning through images. That's what I believe. That's what, at least I think, is being a photographer. And in fact, if you look at the best of the photographers around the world, what they do and why they're famous is precisely this reason. A lot of documentary photographers, a lot of nature or fine art photographers, they are able to convey a certain meaning through their images. And that meaning makes those images special. And the reason why they are able to do it is because they put a lot of thought into the photograph or into the image before they push that shutter button. Now, I cannot speak for a lot of other people, but I can definitely illustrate from my own experiences. Like I said in my previous video, that when I was trying to take photography to the next level, and when I was looking for cameras which would help me to learn photography even more than before. And before that, I had a bridge camera, a Sony bridge camera that I used for about 5 years. And after that point, I wanted to get to a camera which would give me image results, which would also be flexible to use, where I could have interchangeable lenses so that I can try out different kinds of focal lengths and all of those things that come with interchangeable lenses. And I went for the Fujifilm X-E1, this camera here, right here. And with this, I of course got the kit lens, which is the 18 to 55 zoom lens, but I also got this prime lens, which is 35mm 1.4. Now, this camera was really popular when it came out, and it was really talked about, and there was a lot of critical praise that this camera got. But of course, very soon after, a lot of much better cameras came out, even from Fujifilm. Fujifilm came up with the X-T1 and all of those other X series cameras, which are much faster than this camera in terms of autofocus and the writing speed. And that's the only criticism that I heard about this camera. It was really slow, and it still remains really slow even after all the firmware updates that Fujifilm comes up with. And so is the lens. The lens and the camera both are really slow in their autofocus as well as writing speed. Now, what I learned from this was I had to get this camera because that was my budget. That's all that I really had to spend, so I got this camera. But today I'm really thankful that I did, because even though this camera is really slow, it helped me grow as a photographer, because it helped me learn composition in a way that is the most demanding. And now what I mean by that is that I was forced to put thought into my frame before I even picked up the camera and put it to my eye to sort of create a frame. Because I started with street photography. The first thing that I did when I got this camera was I went out to a vegetable market, and I started taking street photographs. I started taking street portraits. Now, I could not just point it and shoot and just be confident that this picture would come across really nice, because I knew for a fact this camera takes a lot of time to focus. And to illustrate, I'll show you how much time it takes. Now, if you can hear, now I'll put it a little closer so that you can hear. See? Now, what do you think happens when you take this camera out and you look at someone and you're trying to take their portrait, a complete stranger, and this camera hunts for focus? It makes that sound. You can't just go like this. You have to put it here, wait for it to focus, then click, and then take it down. Every single time that I intended to take a photograph, I had to think about it before I took that photograph, because I didn't want to just put a camera like this, make the other person uncomfortable, and not come up with a decent image. I could not take burst modes with it because the writing speed is so slow. It would take a lot of time to process even after a burst mode, and the frames per second are not enough to get that interval between frames that I would be able to select a picture afterwards. So it forced me to think, it forced me to stay there in the moment, look at the person, and be able to communicate that I am going to take that photograph, even to the person, or sort of at least place myself in a position where I was not visible to the person and take that photograph. It made me think, and every single time since then, as long as I was using this camera, every time I picked this up, that is what I think is the most important thing that I learned. And another important thing that it made me do was to be present in that position, is that I was not just walking and taking photographs at a speed which did not force me to stop at a point and stay there for a while and focus, which is something that a lot of people would do when they're just using a point and shoot or a really fast camera. And it is very tempting because you're moving and you just look at something, click and move. But when a camera is slow, what you are forced to do is to stand there for a while, look at the subject, try to focus properly, and then take that photograph. What that makes you do is also become very aware of the surrounding. It also helps you become more comfortable in your skin as a photographer. Now, to slip in another advice which would also take me to the next point is, if you're going to be a photographer, if you're going to start taking photographs seriously, what I would suggest that you do is every time that you take photographs, try to take photographs in a series. For example, when you go out, like I did, to a vegetable market, you try and produce images that are connected to each other in some way. They could be just portraits of people around you, they could be abstracts, you could just be taking photographs of the vegetables or still lifes. But the idea is that every time that you're going out and taking photographs, of course you can take other photographs as well, but try and make a series out of those photographs so that they are connected to each other. The reason why I'm saying this is because when you make a series, it automatically is meaningful. It's connected. All those photographs share a lot of things with each other, not just the subject, but also the time of the day itself, the year that you took those photographs in. They're connected to each other. When you look at them together, they would also be unified in your style, because you are at a certain point as a photographer and you took those photographs as a set. So even if someone is to look at you as a photographer later, at the later stage, they would be able to see some coherence in all your work. And the more you work like this, the more coherence your work starts to get. So you are able to develop your own style better, especially when you start reviewing your own work. Now, another tip which includes both my previous tips, which is first, use a slow camera, and second, use a slow camera to make a series. An experiment that you can do is take photographs from a moving vehicle, but don't do this while driving. Take photographs from a moving vehicle of the world outside when you're sitting in the passenger seat. And you realize is that you'd be challenged like never before to be able to predict and anticipate a moment before it happens. And that would in itself push you to become better at it. It would push you to be able to think before something happens, and that always works out in your favor as a photographer. If you learn this one thing, I don't think there is anything harder to learn after this, because lighting and composition, all of these things have a certain formula to them. And of course, when you learn the formula, you can also learn to break them. But there is no formula to be able to predict something. There's no formula to be able to anticipate a moment before it happens. It is only something that you need to develop an intuition for. And it's a great exercise. I would wholeheartedly suggest that you do it, and you'd see yourself grow as a photographer. Now with this, I would like to put an end to this video and thank all of you who are viewing this video. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share this video as much as you can. If you have any questions, please post a comment. And if you want to suggest something that I can do possibly in the next video, or if you want me to do another video about something else, or if you want me to do something differently, please let me know in the comments. I would either answer your questions in the comments themselves, or I will make another video and answer those questions there. So I'll see you in the next video. But for now,